Hey guys, it's GadgetGuruHD here from GadgetGuruHD.blogspot.com, and today I'm going to tell you Apple's biggest mistake of 2012, and that has been the pricing of their products. Normally you wouldn't see this from a company like Apple, but this year especially I think we've seen just a lot of big mistakes, or what I would call mistakes, and mess ups in the pricing of their products. Now I'm just going to tell you right now their whole lineup of products and their pricing. Now the iPod Shuffle is $49, iPod Nano is $149, iPod Touch is $299, and you see a big gap between the Nano and the Touch. $149 for the Nano, $299 for the Touch, and I'm going to get into that later. Then you see $299 for the Touch and $329 for the iPad mini. That's only a $30 gap between the iPad mini, and I'll also get into that later. Then the iPad, of course, is at $499. Now, the number one issue, you need to bring back the 16 gigabyte iPod Touch. Nobody is going to pay $299 for an iPod Touch. It doesn't matter that they're Apple. I think $299 has gotten to the point that Apple has to realize that they don't have the same coolness factor they did a couple years ago, where Android was nowhere near as developed as they are now. And I know this is pretty biased, but still, $299, you can get a Nexus 7 and $100 worth of accessories with the same money that you'd pay for an iPod Touch. A $299 only option for the lowest level iPod Touch. I just think that that's going to completely kill their sales. I don't really care that they've revamped the iPod Touch and made colored backs. I just think that's way overpriced. Number 2, the iPad mini and iPod Touch are priced way too close together. Okay, you have a choice with an iPod Touch in one hand and you have an iPad mini in the other. Which one are you going to choose? An iPad mini for an extra $30 or an iPod Touch? I see nobody's going to choose an iPod Touch over an iPad mini when you're talking about entertainment purposes. And you could get an iPad mini for only $30 more. And then I also think iPod Nano is a little bit overpriced at $149, but I mean, if you need a ton of gigs, then you're probably just going to get an iPod Classic. So now this is what I think it should look like. Now remember, the Shuffle was at $49, the Nano was at $149, the Touch was at $299, the Mini was at $329, and the iPad was at $499. This is what I think it should look like. The iPod Nano doesn't really matter, but I just said $99 for that. The Touch, $199 for the 16 gigabyte like it used to be. 32 gig is $299 because I know Apple is going to want to keep that one price the same. The iPad mini, you can go back and forth between $299 and $329, but I don't think the $30 is going to make a huge difference between the amount of users that purchase the iPad mini. Because Apple doesn't want their consumers to choose the iPad mini just because it's only $30 more than the iPod Touch. And I think the way that this is headed is that the iPad mini sales are going to completely kill the iPod Touch's sales. And I know the iPod Touch already has a ton of sales, but that's because the iPad mini was pretty much just announced a couple days ago. And the pre-order started today, or depending on when I upload this video, it might be yesterday, but I think the iPad mini is just going to absolutely destroy sales and ultimately lower the amount of sales of the iPod Touch and also the iPad. And that isn't a good thing. I think if you evened out the pricing a little bit more and spaced it out a little bit, that way there isn't a tiny gap between the iPod Touch and the iPad mini, or an enormous gap between the Nano and the Touch, then it would help a little bit. Because honestly, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. And if they want to keep their tablet market share the way it is, then Apple will need to step up their game in the way they price things, and also in the way just their products are. And I'll get into that later in a separate video. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and also on my blog, GadgetGuruHD.blogspot.com. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more videos, and also check out my 200 subscriber video once I get that up. And thanks for watching.